launch into the causes of the shooting last year that so shocked the close-knit community.
Parents of the victims are campaigning
calls for gun laws,
killing 12 students
for
and
Kevin
a teacher.
Cacciadorian.
Important we understand this phenomena.
January 9th, 2001. Dear Franklin, I swear I never lied to you about Kevin's scar, because you never actually asked me. But the court did.
Mrs. Cacciadorian, did either you or your husband ever hit Kevin?
Certainly not. Certainly not. My one act of perjury. I believe you only get at a truth by assembling all the tiny, inconclusive details in a pile. The court didn't have time for that. Nor did you, Franklin, before Thursday. I think that's why I'm writing these letters. To get at a truth. So before I talk about the scar, I have to talk about toilet training. I know. It embarrasses you. Imagine how I felt. Telling a prospective kindergarten teacher our 4-year-old still wears diapers.
Is there a underlying medical problem? No. Non-conforming behaviour like this is often a cry for help.
Really? I half expected Miss Fabricant to call the police. Instead, she took Kevin on. Under certain conditions. At 9 a.m. every day, I dropped Kevin off at Love and Learn. At 11:30, I was obliged to return with my rather careworn diaper bag. If he was dry, that reprieve often meant a phone call at lunchtime. So by the end of the day, I would have made 4 round trips. Kevin's non-conforming was tyrannizing my life. And even Miss Fabricant was struggling.
Kevin is rather under-socialized.
Subtext. Kevin eschews our stimulating Montessori environment and sits like a zombie all day. I could picture it all too easily. It was exactly what he did at home. We tried. You showered him with toys. These were ignored. My handmade storybooks were systematically destroyed. But even Kevin can sustain stasis for only so long. Miss Fabricant would soon look back on the zombie phase with nostalgia. In January, one little girl began to cry and wouldn't stop. The class loudmouth fell silent. Another boy developed an inexplicable terror of the coat closet. What did this have to do with Kevin? Perhaps nothing. But his influence could clearly be detected in the potty department. By the time he graduated, there was not just one 6-year-old in diapers, but 4. You want me to get to the point, Franklin, but please be patient. Presenting the outcome without the journey is exactly what alienated me from your parents. It was my first visit since Thursday, and I must confess I'd put it off. Your mother had always been a little brittle, so the effect of the preceding 6 weeks was subtle. But with your father, I didn't know it was possible to lose so much weight in so little time. To fill the silence, I tell them Kevin had been arraigned. I tell them he's being held without bail, that
I've hired the best lawyer I could find.
What for?
To, get him off as lightly as possible.
Is that what you want?
What I want is to turn back the clock. Right back to have never been born myself. That's what it takes. There is a campaign on to try Kevin as an adult.
You get the death penalty.
Yes.
Is that what you want?
I sometimes wish it was over. But that might be letting myself off the hook.
Surely you don't blame yourself, my dear.
I meet her eyes squarely, mother to mother.
I never liked Kevin very much, Gladys. A lot of the time, I couldn't stand having him around. I think enjoying your kids' company is even more important than loving them. But I couldn't manage that either.
Later, snippets of this deadly conversation were quoted in court. Oh, your parents didn't have it in for me. But they were honest New Englanders. And I had given them no reason to protect me. I'm sorry, Franklin. I still haven't talked about the scar, but I'm getting there. Next letter, I promise. Eva. January 14th, 2001. There were several minor incidents during Kevin's first year at kindergarten, all of which you dismissed with,
Eva, every boy pulls a few braids.
in your eyes I was telling tales. So I stopped. Like when my Amsterdam photograph went missing from the hall. I loved that photo of me, my warm, open expression. I assumed, like my maps, it had met some grisly fate, but I said nothing. However, one incident unnerved me so much I couldn't keep it to myself. I had gone to pick up Kevin at the usual time.
Kevin? Kevin!
But no one seemed to know where he was. The missing child being our son, the last place we thought to look was the bathroom. Kevin's back is to us. He is whispering. Facing us is Violetta. She is a pretty girl. Not that anyone notices because of the eczema. She's covered in it. She has impressive self-control, not allowing herself to scratch, except sometimes to trace one fingernail tantalizingly along her arm. But today, her face is lifted in what I can only describe as ecstasy. Her eyes are closed, lips parted in a kind of swoon. Her hands are clawed, and she is covered in blood.
So a little girl scratched herself.
I don't want to have this argument again.
What has that to do with my son?
But it is replaying in my head now, and I can't stop it.
She practically flayed herself alive, Franklin. And he watched.
So you make him squish around the house all afternoon, plastered in his own shit?
A slip. Usually you'd say poop, reducing what had become a guerrilla war between Kevin and I to a playground titter.
Was that a punishment? They take kids into care for less.
I should be so lucky.
Well, Eva, what is wrong with you?
He enticed her, Franklin. If you saw what she did to herself...
Oh, if it was as bad as you say, maybe Kevin's traumatized. Did that occur to you?
He wasn't traumatized. He was smug.
You plop onto an end of the impractical white couch, head in hands. I can't join you because the other end is still smeared brown. So I pace.
Eva, I'm pretty much at the end of my rope here. Not because of Kevin.
What? Is that a threat? Are you threatening me?
Eva, calm down. I'm not gonna walk out on my family.
You don't say marriage.
Franklin. Kevin is my life now. I dress him, feed him when he lets me, ferry him everywhere, change his diapers. Today he disturbed me, frightened me, so much I couldn't come near him. I wasn't punishing him, not exactly, but with Violetta he seemed so...
After seeing her strange rapture, the thought of swabbing those tight little testicles repelled me. But I can't tell you this.
Changing him was just too intimate.
But he didn't do anything.
Exactly. Why didn't he call for help?
Eva...
No. Think about it, Franklin. Why did he get blackballed from playgroup?
Some stay-at-home mom got a bug up her ass.
Why won't one single babysitter come back a second night?
'Cause the money's crap. There's nothing wrong with Kevin. Eva, he plays with me, hugs me. I read him stories. When it's just me and him, he's fine. He doesn't have any dark secrets. He's a happy, healthy little boy.
Okay, Franklin. So ask him. Ask your sweet, open-hearted son exactly what he did to Violetta.
That's how it was, Franklin. How we were. Even remembering exhausts me. Eva. January 20th, 2001. Dear Franklin, I'm back from Claverlac, debriefing in the cafe again. Today, the lie became our topic for visitor hour.
What would you have done, Cowden? The little boy that insisted on messing his pants until he was old enough for first grade? What would you have done with you?
Know what they do with cats, don't you? Shove their faces in their own shit. Punish them. They learn.
So you remember what you drove me to?
Sure.
He traces that faint, white scar on his forearm tenderly.
I was proud of you. Most honest thing you ever did.
Okay, out with it. I can't put off the truth any longer, Franklin. It was an afternoon in July. Kevin had soiled his diapers. I had cleaned him up. 20 minutes later, he had completed the evacuation of his bowels. Or so I assumed. As soon as he was clean again, I sniffed another telltale waft.
Tell me you haven't.
I yank him to his feet, pull down his pampers. The smell is overpowering.
3 times? Where does it all come from? You hardly eat anything.
I am shouting in his face.
How do you do it?
Kevin is dangling in midair. He weighs nothing. As if that dense little body stocked with such inexhaustible quantities of shit is packed instead with styrofoam. There's no other way to say this. I throw him across the nursery. His head comes to rest at a quizzical angle, as if finally interested in something. Then he slides in slow motion down the wall.
Kevin.
On first inspection, he looks unmarked. Then I roll him over to reveal the arm. It is bleeding, and a little crooked, with something white poking out.
I'm sorry.
I feel sick.
I'm sorry.
But I am also intoxicated. I may pretend not to understand Thursday, but somewhere in my own violent, physical act was ecstasy. Like Violetta, I had given in to myself, and that allowed me, finally, to connect with my son. The lies that came afterwards had a different effect, but about that moment, Kevin was absolutely right. It was the most honest thing I ever did. Eva,